conference. We appreciate everybody joining us for the conference. It's unfortunate that we can't meet together in person. Last year we had this conference in person. We had nearly 120 individuals we serve, as well as staff from provider agencies, as well as staff from our agencies join us, and it was a really great time just to interact and enjoy everybody's company. We're not able to do that this year, so we wanted to be sure we still offered a rights conference though. So here we are virtual. We will keep everybody muted during the presentations. If you have a comment, you can type that in the chat, and at the end of the presentations, we will be having an opportunity for you to ask questions or make comments. Thank you again so much for joining us. As we do our various presentations, I'll introduce our presenters at that time. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Our first speaker is our CEO, Dana. Oh, I forgot, I have to go back. I don't want to forget to do this. I do want to thank our conference planning committee. We did have to shift during the middle of our training because we were planning for an in-person training, and then so we had to shift back to virtual, which changes your trajectory on how you want to plan an event. So I want to be sure that I thank our committee members. 3 of our members are from our Recipient Rights Advisory Committee, and that's Ashley Barber, Liz Janovitz, and Betty Ruas. So thank you from our committee members. And then we also have members of our organization who assisted in the planning, and that was Dawn Craw, Marilyn Minnick, Jean Fettner, Debbie Whizzer, and myself. So thank you to the committee for the planning. With that, I am going to introduce our CEO and Executive Director, Dana Lazenberry, and she has a few words for us. Welcome, Dana.
Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, everyone. I'm very excited to be with you all this morning. So sorry I can't see you, or you can't actually see me. Have a bad connection, but you know, the show must go on. But good morning again, and I'm really excited to be here. And I know I've said this a million times already now, but I love this part of my position here and the amount of time I get to spend with individuals we serve. And here's another repeat. I would love if we can do it face-to-face, in person, physically, but we'll get there one day, very soon, I hope. So again, the virtual events are a little tiring sometimes, but I never get tired of hearing from the people we serve, and I appreciate the engagement in our service community, especially your willingness to share your life experiences, which are so personal, and your opinions, which we value so much. I admire you when you're the sincerity and the genuine nature in which people share, which is why I always plan to let you know that you're valued by me, really, and then everyone at OCHN. And it shows in the level of work and just this presentation alone, and the committee members. I thank you all again and acknowledge the hard work that I know that Vicki and her team and Christine and her team and so many others do to bring these presentations to you. So during my early presentations, where I was introducing myself to all of you, I mentioned and talked about my son. I shared a little bit about him and having seizure disorder and how he struggled with academics and just school, and then even sometimes making friends and things of that nature. But I was his advocate. I joke about it, but I was seriously his advocate. And so people would try to use, you know, his mom's a psychologist or she works here or there. But to me, I was just his mom. I was an advocate for him. So I joke that my name might be on a list somewhere in the school district, because I have at one time had to have something mediated. So it's important when you talk about rights to know what your rights are and how to access and utilize your rights when you feel like something is not right for you. So I've done that, and I felt good about being able to do that. But I also think it's so important to teach people how to advocate for their family members and loved ones, but also to teach people who receive services how to advocate for themselves. So like most moms, I'm very overprotective, and sometimes he has to say, hey, I got this. And that makes me feel good, because I know that I did something good for him, that he's able to check his own grades. He's able to go and talk to a teacher or to his employer about an issue or problem that he needs to resolve. So I think the most important part of this conference, and the part of why I share that story is relevant to the 2020 Go Rights Conference, is when, as an adult and a college student, he said, like I said, I got this, Mom. I can advocate for myself and what I need to succeed. Those were the proudest moments in my life. And they still, every day I see growth with him. I see maturity. I mean, when he's asking me, hey, did you eat dinner today? What are you going to eat? I'll go get you something. I'm like, wow, who is this kid, this young man that I helped to raise, that I poured so much into, that I see even greater things for him. So as a mom and as a mental health professional, advocacy is one of those things that you'll always hear from me as being one of those top priorities. And I know for an organization and a business, they talk about top priorities, but that's just not a business goal for me or a priority. That is a personal goal and priority I have. So when I'm listening to you tell your stories, I often feel a similar sense of pride. It's such a meaningful feeling when you hear and you stand up and you speak for yourselves and for each other. I'm also aware that every time you step forward as an advocate, you're not just changing your own life, you're changing the lives of people who need the support of the public mental health system in the future, or even now. And so that's another thing that we'll be working on, is how do we get our story out there so more people know how to access the services and supports that we know many need and that we can provide. So I like to think about a public mental health system as a trailblazer. We're trailblazers, we're ambassadors, we're clearing the path for others to follow. I just think people are so brave and so thoughtful when they share their experiences and their stories. And you're so absolutely so resilient, especially now. I think we've all had to be really resilient. So again, I wanted to thank you for this conference, letting me participate. I love the fact I'm here to work with you all. And I know I'm in the leadership position, but I really feel like we're partners in this and that we're working together. And I thank you for establishing such a strong advocacy legacy for the organization that we can celebrate and that's respected across the state. So again, thank you for letting me participate. These are the things that I love to do, and it comes naturally. But I'm looking forward to hearing some of the stories people have to share today. So thanks again, and I think I'm turning it back over to you, Vicki.
Yes, thank you, Dana, so much. One of the things that I appreciate about you, and that we don't have to train you on, is that you really do value the folks that we serve. So I appreciate that quality in you so much. So thanks for your message. All right. Well, we like to do raffles. We like to give things away. So we are having a $25 gift raffle throughout the training today. So stay tuned to see if you've been a winner. So our first winner for today's raffle is, I have to go, wow, I don't know if I have that information. Sorry about that. Hang on. I do have it somewhere. And okay, here we go. So that's just your suspense. And our first winner today, Sylvia Clark. Sylvia Clark is our first winner of our raffle today. Yay, Sylvia. All right. So sorry about that little delay. I'm trying to also get somebody the link to be able to join our conference at one of the clubhouses. So, all right, there's our raffle. Our next, are we doing I thought our next thing was a video. Sorry about that.
Nope, we got Deb. Deb Monroe's up.
Yeah, and then is the video coming after her?
There's one a little later.
Okay, sorry about that. My agenda I have has a video first. Okay, so no worries though. Hey, because we are adaptable. I am so excited that Deb Monroe is here to share with us about person-centered planning. It's so interesting that when I was helping Deb prep for this presentation, it's so difficult for her to narrow down what she has to say about person-centered planning into 30 minutes. She is so passionate about person-centered planning and independent facilitation. She's so knowledgeable about person-centered planning. She's a certified peer support specialist. She's a certified recovery coach. She was appointed to the oh my goodness, now I've forgotten the name of it, but the governor appointed. Deb, help me out here. Forgotten the name of it. I'm sorry, say that again.
The Human Trafficking Commission.
Thank you. The Human Trafficking Committee at the state level. She was appointed by the governor to be a part of that. Deb does a number of trainings for the state as well. She's passionate about sharing her story and passionate about person-centered planning. So help me welcome Deb Monroe as she presents our first topic for today. Yay, welcome, Deb.
Thank you for being able to, I want to say good morning. And I am excited about the topic of person-centered planning because, you know, just for myself, you know, being able to be a part of my own plan during services was really a huge step that I wanted to go. And so being able to get this information.
You're cutting out a little bit. Just so you know, you're cutting out a little bit off and on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just talk a little bit louder then. So, you know, I just said that I'm just very passionate about this topic. I like letting people know that they can be a part of their plans. They can have, you know, it's an opportunity to empower yourselves and be a big advocate and deciding what it is that's going to be important to you when you are deciding what your goals will be and where you want to go in your life. So can we go to the next slide? All right, so some of the things that I'm going to talk about at the end so by the end of this session, you will be able to define person-centered planning, explain the difference between traditional planning and person-centered planning, explain the principles for using the 5 stages of recovery, explain the qualities of good planning, and then explain the importance of making choices. You know, like Vicki said, is that I do have to be mindful of my time, but I really have, you know, it's like, I want you guys just to take a second and think about for you that have or that are receiving any type of services, like what was your last plan like? You know, were you able to have that voice and be able to decide what your goals were going to be? Did you have time to think about them and how you would achieve them? And this is some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. Next slide. So people with disabilities and, you know, disability labels have been excluded from mainstream society for centuries. And so because of this lack of access and the involvement in the community life, I think the value of certain groups of people have not been fully realized. Next slide. So person-centered planning. Sorry, I have a cat that keeps on trying to interrupt. So person-centered planning attempts to identify and highlight the unique talents, gifts, and capabilities inherent to everyone, and we want to explore where these gifts can be shared and appreciated, and where the person's contributions and social roles will be valued. Next slide. So when we talk about person-centered planning, we're focusing on the desires and the abilities of the individual. It involves a team of family members, friends, professionals, and the individual. And team members are chosen by the individual. And we're going to talk about how you do that. Next slide. And so I think that when we talk about person-centered planning, and I just want to say that person-centered planning is a process of how the plan is created. A lot of times people think that the IPOS and the PCP or the person-centered plan are the same thing, and they're not. A IPOS is a document that is created, and then the person-centered plan is how the document is developed. Like it's a process that you use. And one of the things I like about pre-planning is that you get to choose where, when, who, and what. I know in the past, for me, it was difficult when I came in for a meeting and they'd say, well, what do you want your goals to be? And it was difficult for me to really think about what my goals were within a short period of time. And so when we think about pre-planning, it gives you the ability or the opportunity to really think about what you want to achieve and what you want to do. And so this is an opportunity for you to really think about it and who you want to be invited to your plan, who you want to, you get to choose where the person-centered planning meeting is held. You get to choose when and where the meeting, what time the meeting will be held. You get to choose who attends the meeting. You may want to invite some friends or family members. You may have a significant other that you want to invite. And then you also look at individuals that may be supporting you. And it could be a peer support specialist. It could be your case manager. It could be anybody that you choose that you feel that would help you in achieving your goals and that you want to be involved in your plan with you. I think that when a person gets to decide who is going to be invited to their plan, it's very empowering for them. They get to select what they want to talk about and what they don't want to talk about. There may be things that are going on in someone's life that, they're working on it, or it may be interfering with some things. But if they're not ready to talk about it or deal with it, it's really not going to be helpful. And so they decide what parts of their life they want to talk about, and then they get to talk and what they don't want to talk about. Next slide. And so again, I think that, like I said, understanding the individual's vision is the most important step in planning. And I think that when you are doing pre-planning, you get the opportunity to do that. I've had individuals that I have met with and talked about, their goals, and they would say, I don't have any goals at all. And, and then just trying to ask some of those open-ended questions and getting them to think about things that they desire, things that they don't feel are attainable, and then looking at how could they be obtainable, and then them calling me later on and saying, you know what, I do have some goals, and these are the goals I have. And a lot of times there are a lot. They just didn't think that they were possible or that they were a goal that they could put in their plan. They felt that a lot of times the goals that were set for them needed to be treatment focused. And that's not, and when we're talking about person-centered planning, it's goals that give meaning to the person. So again, we may require creativity and investment from the individuals that are attending the plan. A lot of times I feel that if a goal could be reached, it would have already been reached. And so we may have to think creatively and look at what we need to do to help the individual meet that goal and what they can do for themselves to meet that goal. I think that it doesn't stop with the assessment or the planning process, that it's always a living document, it's ongoing. And so you look at what things that need to even be adjusted. Next slide. So goals the individual set for themselves, they are defined from the individual's perspective. And items that and so I think that we have to gather information. It's asking asking those open-ended questions, helping them explore ideals and things that they want to do. It's also understanding the individual's vision of where they want their life to go. It's developing that plan and then evaluating, and then redefining the plan. Sometimes the first version of a plan may be the outline, and you need to go back in and you need to adjust it to redefine it or refine it as you go along, because you may find things that are working and some things that aren't. So you have that ability to go in there and do that. And so this is also an opportunity, it's a standard by which the individual measures the quality of their life, and then again, the plan is individualized. All right, next slide. So preparing for planning is consider the effectiveness of the support. Look for both barriers and opportunities. I want to go back up to that first one for a minute, and talking about considering the effectiveness of support is looking at who is supportive and who is not. Sometimes we have people that are in our lives that are still our friends, our family, whoever, but they may not be supportive. They may not understand how they can support, or they just don't want to support the individual, and that's okay. They can still be family, friends, and whoever. But we want to find who are supportive and how effective that support can be when we're thinking about obtaining these goals. We want to look for both barriers and opportunities. You know, I think that there's always barriers that may get in the way of a opportunity or a goal. And so maybe planning on that ahead of time. So having the individual, because I'll just say this, that sometimes that I find that some goals have been goals for a while and they haven't been able to accomplish them because there is a barrier there. And so if you maybe can think about what barriers might get in the way, what barriers have gotten in the way in the past, and what can we look at brainstorming some ideals on how to overcome those barriers, remove those barriers, so that person can obtain that goal. You also need to identify need for more information. You may have to gather more information, look for resources in the community, things like that, and then obtain information. So ask the individual, ask someone who knows them best, observe, read documentation and assessments. You know, I think that I'll just say that when I think about the read the documents and assessments and things like that, I try to meet the person. Like when I was doing my goal, if people would have read my documentation, I guess, and assessments, they may have not thought that some of my goals would have been realistic. And so, when I think about that is ask the person what they want and how they can be supported in achieving the goals. And because they know best, they know what they want, if it's realistic to them, things like that. All right, next slide. One thing is, what is an ineffective person-centered plan? And so a lot of times an ineffective plan would be is that the team meets once a year. You are only aware of the plan when it's time to sign the document. Planners are mainly professionals. Programs drive the plan, so it's looking at medication compliance, staying out of the hospital, making sure you attend group or see the doctor. Nothing seems to change. The goal is to be in maintenance, but nothing really changes. But I think that sometimes that may be important depending on what stage you're in, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then meetings are a drudge. Again, sometimes you may not even know really that you're in in a plan and you're just signing documents. You're asked to sign the document, you sign the document, and then a lot of times you don't even know what your goals are. And so the plan is about a document. Next slide. I guess I want to ask a question. Is there anybody that has ever experienced that, where they were really not aware of what their goals were? They may have been, hey, it's time for your pre-plan or your plan. We need you to sign this document. And then you sign the document, and then you're giving a copy of the document, but still not very clear on what your goals are. Has anybody ever experienced that? And if you have, just put it in chat and we can go back to it, I guess, because I'm not sure. I can't see if anybody's raising their hands at all. So, Dorita.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yes. Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. When I was in community mental health, I felt that they were really, really overworked. I was doing exactly this woman that I had as a case manager. I mean, I really liked her. But she was overworked, and exactly the way what you're saying with the ineffectiveness. We do it right at the end when it was needed for insurance purposes or whatever it was, and it would be like the same goal all the time. And I would just be signing papers. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I had my own goals on the side, but it wasn't really worked on in the system. But it was like okay for me. I guess okay and not okay, but it was just very ineffective. And I really believe that's a lot has to do with it. They're overworked and too much of a caseload.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? So, all right. Thank you. So we want to look at person-centered planning versus traditional planning. And so when we think about person-centered, it focuses on the individual and their goals. The changes in service based on the individual's needs and wants, and program designed for the individual, performance expectations defined by the individual. I remember when I went in for my first person-centered plan, I was just told to sign paperwork. My goals were to take my medication, to make sure I stayed out of the hospital, attend groups, and see my doctor. And you know what? I needed that at one point in my life because of the things that I was experiencing, and it was very helpful. But later on, it was again, sign the document. But I had went to a training through Oakland Community Health Network, and at the time it was CMH, and I had went in and I had went to a presentation by Sherry Rushman talking about person-centered planning. And so when they asked me to sign the document, I was like, no, I need to be a part of the plan. And so by then I was doing a lot better and my plan changed. I wanted to get employment. I wanted to have parenting classes so that I could be a better parent. And I wanted to look at different housing. And when I actually seen those goals on paper and we had someone helping me and looking at helping me attain these goals, things started happening, and it really did improve the quality of my life. And so that's why, again, it's important to really be a part of your plan and have a voice and advocate for yourself, know what you need, and ask for that help to get it. Traditional ways is that you focus on the program standard. Changes in services are based on the organization's decisions. Individuals assigned to a program, and performance expectation is defined by that program. But when I just think it's, when we think about person-centered planning, it's just about, we talk about empowerment and advocacy, and I think that's what that person-centered planning process does. Next slide. All right, so. Oh, sorry. So what is an effective person-centered plan is that the individual sets the agenda. The individual chooses the team. The team works on the individual's agenda. There is a measurable accomplishments, and then the team celebrates those accomplishments, and the plan is about individual's life. And so the team helps identify skills and abilities of the individual, also the ones that can help the individual achieve the goals, of competitive employment, independence, continuing self-improvement, wellness, and then full inclusion in the community. The team identifies areas where individual may also need assistance and supports. They may need to work and build on those skills and stuff like that, but it's also being there to help support them and then also help them identify some of those things that they need to work on. And then the team helps and support the individual with options, choices, on how to meet their needs. Next slide. All right, so planning focuses on the individual's interests, gifts, and talents. Team members know the individual and appreciate his or her gifts and talents, and then the individual's agenda is used in designing the process that works. And so, the individual must direct the action, and the vision for the individual must come from his or her own life experience. The individual works as a partner with service personnel to ensure staff understands his or her desires and needs, and the plan is built around the individual's, again, their vision. Next goal. Sorry, next slide. Reaching goals. And so teams should be doers and not just talkers.
Go back one.
Yeah, sorry. Yep, and not just talkers. Develop concrete goals and action steps to achieve those goals. Develop supports within the community. Celebrate accomplishments, and then revise the plan as needed. So you want to explore every option for available resources, supports, and assistance for the individual. And that may be networking and finding other resources that you may not know about. That's where I think creativity comes in with the team. Ongoing, and that's why it's important to have multiple people at a team, because everybody brings different resources that may be available to the individual. Ongoing listening, learning, reflective, and taking action. And then also be aware that individuals are constantly changing, as do their wants, needs, and desires. And so maybe the goal may even change. And so they have the ability to make those changes as necessary. Next slide. All right, so effective planning uses personal outcomes. And so teams should be like, again, nope, I think all right, just go ahead and go past that slide. All right, so I have a slide that you don't have. I'm just going to go back to that one and I'll just use this one. So personal outcomes have no standard definition and there's no right answers. And so the agency and staff should not only provide needed supports, but help the individual develop supports in the community that will assist in reaching those goals. None of us reach our personal goals, outcome goals, without support from others. I know that, you know, in my own personal life is that anything that I've ever wanted to obtain, it was I could do a lot for myself, but I always needed some type of support. And so it is okay to ask for help or support when needed, and being able to you know, have individuals that you can look upon for that support. And so people choose personal outcomes because they want to choose personal goals, choose one where they live, interact with members of their community. They want that feeling of belongingness like everybody else, have intimate relationships, have friendships, are satisfied with services, choose their daily routines, and then also are connected to natural support networks. Next slide. All right, so so one of the things we do as peer support, in our training, is that we talk about these 5 stages of recovery and how these are used in planning. And I think it really kind of fits too when I think about person-centered planning, is because we have to look at where a person's at in their recovery and what each of these stages, how it could impact and what their goals may be. And so I think that when we think about impact of labels, it's if the individual is overwhelmed by the labels that have been placed upon them, planning revolves around decreasing their emotional stress. You know, we want to reduce that stress and communicate that there is life after a diagnosis, or you know, and a person wants to live independently. They want their independence, you know, and maybe told that they can't. So we want to focus on reducing some of that stress that they may be experiencing. But there's a danger there, and that is that the individual identifies and defines themselves based on their illness or their disability. And when that happens, that's why it's important to focus on people's strengths right away, because what we focus on is what we give power to. And so, like, you know, is making sure that we're focusing on those strengths. The second one, stay right there for a minute. The second one is that life is limited, and the individual, you know, sometimes when they are discouraged and don't feel like they're able to reach their goals, want to give up. And so the role of planning here is instilling that sense of hope, the possibilities, and rebuilding a positive self-image, exposing them to possibilities, maybe instilling some hope. But the caution here, or the danger, is that the person believes that this is as good as their life is going to get. And why would they want to be motivated to make any changes in their life if they don't see a future for themselves? And so I think that that's what person-centered planning does. It helps them envision a future for themselves, and it gives them hope. And when they accomplish those goals, you know, it just builds that confidence and helps an individual move forward. The next one I'm talking is change is possible. And so the individual believes there may be more to their life than they've been, you know, that they have believed about themselves in the past. And so the role of planning is to reduce the limitations and support risk-taking. You know, when we think about planning and making changes in our life, there are risks that we're going to take, because we may not always know what the outcome is going to be if I make this change in my life. But what we want to do is help people look at the cost and benefits of making a change. The caution, though, is that the individual might be discouraged by their supporters not to take any risk and play it safe. And so that's why I said it's important to look at who our supports are, and are they going to be an effective support for us? And that's something that may create a barrier for us. The next one is commitment to change. And so the individual challenges those assumptions about themselves or things that they have, people have said. And so the role of planning here is to help the individual identify their strengths, their skills, resources, and supports. And I think the danger here would be is that if the individual does not get the resources to assist in the change, that they may just get discouraged and give up. And so that's why it's important that when we're looking at planning, is that we're looking at all aspects of the plan, of the goal, and what could be that barrier, and getting them the resources or helping them develop the skills that they're going to need to take the responsibility. That's that personal responsibility. The last one is action. And so the individual takes responsibility for their life and is ready, to move forward, right? And so the role of planning here is supporting and providing resources and encouraging self-advocacy. I think the danger here, though, is that the individual may begin to doubt their ability to function responsibly. I know for myself is that a lot of times I used to have goals for myself and I would accomplish them. And then when I got them, I would sabotage everything because I was afraid of the responsibility that came along with doing it, or I may not have had the skills that I needed to maintain it. And so we look at how do we, looking at what skills or resources or supports that an individual needs. Next slide. And so pre-planning worksheets, there are a few different types of tools that an individual can use for their planning, and it just finding one that fits you. And so, the one is maps, and so it's making action plans. There is PATH, Planning Alternative Tomorrows with Hope, Essential Lifestyle Plans, and then Personal Future Planning. And so all of these are different kind of formats that you can use. Some people like to use pictures and things like that, describe what their goals are. Other people like to like what that vision, what that future will look like. And then other ones are, you're using a lot of words. And so whatever one fits with you. And I think that each has a unique strategy for gathering information, but all result in an action plan based on the person's gifts, desires for the future. And so, getting information on all of these different types of tools, planning tools, and finding out which one works best for you so that you can have the best person-centered plan moving forward. Next slide, please. All right, so I think that, I actually sent, I think it's going to be in chat, is there's going to be a link to a SMART goal. I think that one thing that you can do to advocate for yourself, especially when it comes to person-centered planning, is writing out a SMART goal. And so what that does is it helps you write down and you're being specific about what your goal is going to be. And so here they're just giving you something that's easy to, for me, it's like, my goal is to lose 27 pounds. A lot of times people would say my goal is to lose weight, but the goal would really be to lose 27 pounds. My objective is to lose the weight to reach that loss of 27 pounds. You also want to define what evidence will prove you're making progress and reevaluate when necessary. I love being able to measure my progress and know when I'm moving in the direction that I want to go in. And one way that you can do that is that you can measure your success. And so what you're doing is that how would you know when you're moving forward, right? And so these are as a measurable tool that you can use to know that, because sometimes I know for me, I want instant gratification, but I know that that's not real. That's not going to happen. And so how can I measure, what I'm doing? Is it moving in the direction that I want to go in? The A is attainable. It is making sure you can reasonably accomplish your goal within a certain time frame. I may have, and I think about SMART goals, and you can make long-term and short-term goals. I look at SMART goals as more as maybe within a year, because these goals could lead into more long-term goals, but they're moving you in the direction that you want to go. And then the next one is relevant. And so your goal should align with your values and long-term objectives. And then time-based is set a realistic, ambitious end date for task prioritizing and motivation. A lot of time, like if I'm doing a weight loss and I don't have a time frame on it, every day I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to cheat today, but I can do it tomorrow. I can go back and start tomorrow. And so when you put a time frame on your goal, what you're doing is you're saying that I'm going to accomplish it within this certain amount of time. And so, it's like putting I like to challenge myself. So it's kind of like challenging myself. I have a certain amount of time to work on this, but make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to reach the goal that you have. Again, you can always go back and refine your goal if you find that there's things that are not working. And in the handout that's in chat that you can download is really it helps you through each step. And so, take some time and think about a goal. Don't rush through it. Think about what you want to do and how you're going to measure your success. What you're going to need to do to achieve it. Is it relevant to what's important to you? And then putting a time frame on it. Spend some time with that. And then maybe when you go into your person-centered plan is that you already have a goal identified and what you want to do and how you're going to achieve that goal and what kind of support you're going to need. Things like that. And what do you see as some of the obstacles or barriers that get in the way? You may have multiple goals that you want to work on. And so you can use that format to help you identify some of those goals that you want to work on. All right, next slide. And so how can you assist in the process of making real life fulfilled through planning? Is that be a part of your plan, advocate for yourself, right? If you don't feel like you're not sure how to do that, you can always ask for an independent facilitator, someone that can help you. You may have a peer support specialist that is working with you. They may be able to sit down and help you with it. And so just being able to have an ideal of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and going for it. And, and knowing that there's people that will be there to help support you in that goal. All right, so does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Deb, so much. That was a great presentation. And if somebody has any comments or questions, please, you could unmute and ask it, or you could type it into the chat. We've got any comments or questions? Anybody want to share their experience with person-centered planning?
Yeah, how about some of the goals that you've been able to accomplish through a person-centered plan? Would anybody like to talk about some of the positive aspects of them using their plan? Because that may, give somebody else an idea of what they can do with their plan.
So I had at our work group appreciation event on Monday, I had mentioned about an individual I knew some years back, and one of her goals was to get her high school diploma. And she had, tried to do that over a number of years, and she didn't always have the support she needed to do it. And finally, when she did get the right support, and that was probably the 4th or 5th time that she tried to go back to school and complete that, she was able to accomplish that goal at 45 years old. Mm-hmm. That was exciting for her. And she had a lot of people come celebrate her graduation with her.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you just don't realize what planning can really do for an individual.
Yeah.
One of my goals was housing. I just needed a bigger place because I had acquired 3 more kids and I had 6 kids in a small 2-bedroom apartment. And I ended up being a homeowner. Never thought in my life that I would ever be a homeowner, through Habitat for Humanity. I mean, so you just never know what where your goals can lead you in your life,
Right. Anybody want to share a goal that they've accomplished? Just unmute yourself. If you're on a phone, it's *6.
This is Alvin. I like to say that person-centered planning has really been effective for me. Years ago when I was looking for employment, I was able to work with a micro business developer to really kind of figure out what path I want to be on, and it he helped me figure out that I do want to help others with their goals and their life. So that was all thanks to person-centered planning.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Amit. Anybody else? I can't even tell you how important person-centered planning is, and I know sometimes that, and we know as an agency that has not been a good focus over the last few years, and we are working on an effort to revitalize person-centered planning. And we're not blaming staff or anything like that. We know we've not had training or really shared the passion and the importance of person-centered planning over the years, and so we need to do that. So there is an effort as one of our big goals is to really revitalize person-centered planning and the importance of it. Mm-hmm. So everywhere I go, I always talk about person-centered planning. It's really a life plan.
Right. I'll tell you one that really stood out to me is that I had a gentleman that wanted to go to work, but he couldn't. He said he didn't have a lot of support in his, like family and friends and stuff like that. And he wanted to just go to work, but his only support was a dog that he had. And he said, but I can't take her anywhere because, she's not allowed on the buses. She's not allowed anywhere. And so one of his goals was to get his animal to become an emotional support animal. And when he did that, he was able to take her with him to different places, got a job working as a built-in maintenance, was able to buy a car. I mean, his life changed just by getting his dog to become an emotional support animal.
Right.
Because
awesome.
He was able to bring his support with him.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to add that when I was receiving services, that person-centered planning was very instrumental in helping me gain my recovery and maintain it. And even though I'm no longer receiving services, I still use the person-centered planning process on New Year's Day. Instead of making resolutions, I sit down and I work on my plan. What are the things that I want to achieve for the coming year? Mm-hmm. So if you don't receive services, you might find that a helpful tip as well, that you can still continue using person-centered planning as a tool to help you throughout the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Sherry. Yeah, that's a great tip. Well, Deb, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your passion with us once again. So, yay, Deb.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, look at it. We have another raffle. Does anybody want to win a $25 gift card? Let me see. Our next winner is Amit Agarwal. Congratulations, Amit. Yay,
Congratulations. Thanks.
Yes, thanks. We just heard from Amit about his person-centered plan. Great. All right, next slide. All right, we've got some big things coming up for our country this year. And you probably are aware of that. You've seen all the commercials on TV. We have a big election coming up, and we have local elections as well. And so voting is just so important. And we want to be sure that we encourage people that they have a right to vote and to get out and vote. So Betty Ruas, who is a member of our Recipient Rights Advisory Committee, will be doing a short presentation about voting as advocacy. Take it away, Betty. Betty, you're muted.
Okay, thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I am going to provide you with important information relative to voting. This presentation is for everyone who is interested in voting.
Betty, you're muted.
I don't know why it keeps jumping back.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, your voice matters. Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm going to provide you with important information relative to voting to anyone who is interested in voting, whether you have a disability or not. Next slide. Voting is a right. Every United States citizen who is 18 years or older has the right to vote. Why vote? You can influence change and make a positive difference when you vote. You have a role as an advocate for yourself. Make your voice heard. Your voice matters and your vote counts. Next slide. Now we will hear from Makaya Newman on the importance of voting. Makaya leads the anti-stigma team and is also an OCHN board member. We can't hear her.
Can't hear the video. Just give us 1 minute. Teams can be a little finicky sometimes.
It's so important to vote. I am in recovery.
There we go.
Living with a mental health condition. I work for CNS Healthcare as the team supervisor for the award-winning anti-stigma program. I also serve as the vice chair of the OCHN Board of Directors. But I'm also a citizen of this great country. And I would like to see in my lifetime this country truly become one where there is liberty and justice for all of us. We're facing many challenges right now. It could be discouraging watching the news and seeing the things that are unfolding. Many of these challenges are complex and filled with emotion, but we can't allow our emotions and the things that we see paralyze us to the point that we do not exercise our privilege and honor to vote. In the United States, we're given that right. We can choose the people who make the laws and change the laws. They have the power to make this country be what the founding fathers intended when they put forth this great country so many years ago. But if we don't vote, we don't have a say. Our passion and our voice is silent. Elected officials often disregard the issues that are important to us. Why? Because we do not let our voices be heard at the ballot box. We talk a lot about advocacy, self-direction, choice, self-determination, and all of that is good. All of that's needed and necessary. But if you believe in these things, then you should have those principles reflected in everything you do in your life. Everything. It's a fact. Many elections are determined by just one vote. You can't afford to sit this one out. Like the famous advocate Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Take a stand. Use your power. Let your voice be heard. In August, in the primary election, and then again in November in the general election. Remember, you can be the change that you wish to see in this world. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.
Thank you, Makaya, for emphasizing the importance of voting. There are some important deadlines to note if you are planning on voting. If you want to register by mail, online, at the Secretary of State office, or with the county clerk, you will need to register by October 19th for the upcoming general election on November the 3rd. However, with proof of residence, like your state ID or driver's license, you can always register in person at your local city or township clerk up until 8 p.m. of the actual day of election. Next slide. The general election is Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. This election allows citizens throughout the country to vote for who they want in office at all levels. This means the federal, state, and local levels. And just as a reminder that at this general election, you will have the opportunity to vote for your choice of president. So get out there and vote.
Thank you, Betty, for that really important message. Oh, sorry, I jumped in too quick.
Okay, there are 3 websites listed here with a wealth of information on voting. The first website is the State of Michigan website, which is www.michigan.gov/vote. Here you can find your local clerk and polling location, as well as watch a video about voting equipment, how to register, and much more. The next website is the Oakland County Clerk, which is www.oakgov.com/clerkrod. You can register to vote and find your polling place on this website as well. The address of the county clerk's office and the telephone number is shown on this slide. The third website is the League of Women Voters of Michigan, which is www.lwvmi.org. On this website, you can learn more about voting issues and candidates. All of these resources can help answer many questions you may have on voting. Your voice, your vote is not only meant to be a thumbs up. Here is meant much more. Your voice, your vote makes a difference to your neighbors, your community, and society. Everyone's vote counts. One vote makes a difference. Remember, your vote adds up. Please don't hesitate to vote. Your voice, your vote matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Great job. Comments or questions about voting? It's an important thing to do. I hope everybody's registered. I'm waiting to get my absentee ballot in the mail. I should be getting it any day now so that I'm able to cast my vote and drop off my ballot. All right. Thank you so much, Betty.
Okay.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
All right. So our next presentation is about self-advocacy, and Sherry Gerby has been a self-advocate for many, many years. Sherry works for Oakland Community Health Network as a trainer, a part of our training department. She's also been active in our stigma efforts our agency has had. She's a longtime member of Dreams Clubhouse Unlimited. So help me welcome Sherry Gerby as she presents on how we should be doing self-advocacy. Yay, welcome, Sherry.
Thank you so much for that, Vicki. It's a pleasure to be here today. And while we have a small group, every one of you is appreciated, and I appreciate you giving up your time to join us today. So I did a lot of advocacy in previous years where I was actually going to Lansing, testifying between various subcommittees about budget issues. I have advocated a lot for Clubhouse and just a variety of things. I'm no longer advocating in the way that I did. I am now 73 years old. I was in a serious car accident last year, and that's just kind of slowed me down a little bit. So I just don't have the energy to be going out and advocating in public. So consequently, self-advocacy has become very important for me at this time in my life. Next slide, please. So what is self-advocacy? Self-advocacy is when individuals speak up for themselves and control their own affairs, rather than letting someone else speak on their behalf or let someone else make decisions for them instead of making the decision themselves. Next slide. So self-advocacy is being able to make choices in your life. This follows right along with the person-centered planning that Deb Monroe was talking about. Is with person-centered planning, you get to choose what your goals are and how you want your life to look. Well, when you're doing that, when you're participating in your person-centered planning meeting, actively participating, you're actually being a self-advocate for yourself. Self-advocacy is moving towards having control of your life. So when you're making decisions about your life and your goals, that is self-advocacy. Self-advocacy is being in charge of your own care in both the medical and the mental health system. So it means being able to speak to your doctor about your medical conditions that you might have, or speaking to your psychiatrist or to a psychologist or other staff person about your mental health. Anytime that you speak up for yourself, you are being a self-advocate. When you're a self-advocate, you're in control of your own resources, your money, your property, your possessions, and how those resources are used. And finally, you have self-advocacy is having the right to make life decisions without having being controlled by someone else or having someone else influence you in your decisions. People have the right to advise you, but you have the right to not take that advice as well. So it's your choice whether you're going to go along with what somebody recommends to you, or you have a different idea, a different direction that you want to go. Next slide. The self-advocacy movement. It began in the 60s and the 70s, along with the broader civil rights movement. But in many ways, self-advocacy is still considered in its infancy. We have a long ways to go before people understand how to advocate for themselves and fully advocate for themselves. Over time, laws such as the Americans Disabilities Act have supported self-advocacy concepts, and we'll continue to see laws come to fruition in this movement that is going on. Self-advocacy, the movement seeks to reduce the isolation of people with disabilities and give them the tools and the experience to be able to take greater control over their lives. Next slide. I apologize. I know I'm sounding a little out of breath, and I did use my inhaler earlier this morning, but I guess I used it too early. So if I'm sounding a little breathless, that's why, and just bear with me if you would, please. So how do you know when you're self-advocating? Well, whenever you speak up for yourself in resolving a problem or even identifying a problem, that is a self-advocate. Self-advocacy is when you don't understand something and you ask questions about it, or you ask for information. That's self-advocacy. Self-advocacy is also when you fully understand what will be done as part of your care. If you fully understand your person-centered planning meeting and the document that came out of that meeting, the individual plan of support or plan of service, then you are self-advocating when you have that understanding. You're self-advocating when you know your rights or where you can find out about them. And there's a variety of places where you could find out. One would be through a case manager or a support coordinator. Another would be through Oakland Community Health Network. You can call the recipient rights department and talk to somebody in recipient rights, or you can call customer services department and talk to them as well. If either one of those departments can't answer your question, they'll know who to send your question to be able to get the answer. You're self-advocating whenever you're proactive in your care. And when you're self-advocating, that is a way to honor yourself. And there is definitely empowerment through being one's own advocate. I was the facilitator of the empowerment group for a long time, and I'm no longer involved with that group, but they're still doing good things. And when you feel empowered, then you feel able to self-advocate. They feed off of each other. So there's some things that self-advocacy is not. It's not just giving it one try. Sometimes it takes more than once to try something before it works well for you. So you know what they say, practice makes perfect. So don't give up. If you've tried it once, don't give up. Try it again, and then again, and then again. Self-advocacy is not always easy. However, we all know that having something worthwhile can be hard work. And maybe self-advocacy doesn't feel comfortable for you. Maybe you're used to someone telling you what you need to do or what your goals should be. And so it's difficult to take that power back, but it's certainly worth it once you put the effort in. Self-advocacy is not giving in to the other person just to have a resolution or to not have an argument. That doesn't gain you anything, because what you're doing then is giving up your power to someone else. You can hang on to your power and be a self-advocate without being mean or argumentative. Self-advocacy is not being passive in your approach to problems. That means you're recognizing the problem and you're taking some kind of action to resolve the problem and not waiting for someone else to actually do it for you. Self-advocacy is not an aggressive act. It is you taking assertive action. Next slide. So I mentioned aggressive and assertive, and so let's take a look at the difference between the two. Assertive is when you state your goals clearly. I want this. I need this. This is my goal. When you're expressing it clearly, it is not screaming or not making sense in what you're saying. You just state your goals clearly and succinctly, if possible, meaning you just very clearly. It's being prepared and organized. Aggressive is not having the materials to back up your argument. It's important to be prepared. For example, if you're going to do your person-centered planning meeting, think about who's coming and what you might want to have, what kind of materials you might want to have at that meeting. For example, I heard of a person that she liked to have chart paper and markers, and she would draw pictures of what it was that she wanted and then tape those pictures up on the wall. So clearly, in order to be organized and prepared, she had to have chart paper, markers, and tape available. So you want to think about those kind of things in order to be ready for the meeting or ready for whatever it is that you're trying to do. You certainly want to listen to all participants. Everyone has their own point of view, and they may, by listening to them, they may give you something to think about that you hadn't thought about beforehand. And you can't listen if you're talking over other people. We need to get the input, but then the final decision is with you. And if people are talking over each other, you have the power. You can take control of the meeting and say, no, wait a minute, I want to hear from each person one at a time. So that's something that you can do to be able to really hear what each participant has to say. When you're assertive, you certainly want to maintain your composure. You don't want to get emotional and upset. I don't know about you, but if I'm emotional and feeling upset, I'm not as clear in my thinking or in my speaking. So you certainly want to try and keep yourself calm, maintain your composure. And then finally, it's being assertive when you know when you need help. Maybe you're trying to get control of the meeting and people aren't listening to you. So you can call on someone in the meeting to let them help you get control of the meeting. And that could be maybe your case manager, your support coordinator. It could be a family or a friend. So being assertive is if you're trying to do it all alone. If you're being stubborn and say, no, I can do this and I'm going to do it my way. So know when you need help and be willing to accept that help. Next slide. Let me give you a couple of scenarios here. The first scenario is about Joseph, and Joseph has a very controlling mother who always wants to have things her way without consulting Joseph. This year, Joseph doesn't want his mother at his person-centered planning meeting, and therefore he chooses not to invite her. Now, that might upset Joseph's mother, but he can explain, or somebody can explain to her that for this one meeting only, that we really wanted to hear from Joseph's mouth what it is that he's wanting. And there are other ways that his mother can participate in the person-centered planning other than just attending the meeting. So he has that right to be able to exclude anyone from the meeting that he wants to exclude. And again, it doesn't have to be every meeting. It could be just that one time. The second scenario is about Janice, and Janice is 24 years old and has never voted before, and she wants to vote for the next president. Janice asks her staff to help her get registered and take her to the polling place. There's some other things that Janice probably needs to do in order to prepare herself for voting, and that is to understand the propositions that's going to be on the ballot and the other people that are going to be on the ballot. Here in Michigan, not only are we voting for a president, but we're also voting for one of our senators. And that's a very important race as well, because it depends upon, right now, the Republicans have control of the House, but the Democrats are trying very hard to regain control. And so that makes the senator race a very important race as well. So Janice will want to educate herself on what is going to be on her ballot. I want to reiterate that Betty also talked about the League of Women Voters, and I wanted to say a little bit about this as well. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, meaning they're not Republican, they're not Democrat. They will present both sides of an argument. So if it's a proposal that's on the ballot, they'll present what's the pros of passing that law and what's the cons of passing that law. When you go to the website, you can get a voter guide that's specifically for Oakland County. And then it will have listed all the people that are running for the various offices, whether it's a county clerk or just judges, all the different things. And many people will have that are running for office will have a synopsis, something about them as they're applying for your vote. So looking at that voter guide can really help you determine who it is you would like to vote for various positions. So I can't recommend highly enough that you do check out this website. And again, that is lwvmi.org. So that's the League of Women Voters Michigan.org. Next slide, please. So self-advocacy certainly makes you feel happy and successful. And it's always easier the next time. You feel good about yourself, and it adds to your self-confidence. When you start advocating for yourself, it might feel uncomfortable to begin with, but as you do it more and more, it starts not only feeling more comfortable, but you'll also feel really successful and feel like that you're in charge of your own life. And that is a very empowering feeling to know that you're in charge of your life. Next slide. So who can help you develop self-advocacy skills? And I like calling it a skill because a skill is anything that you can learn. So you might have teachers that can help you learn. Peer support specialists and peer mentors can also help you learn, develop self-advocacy skills. Case managers and support coordinators, families and friends, really anyone that's trusted in your life. So think about who you trust. And do you trust them in all areas of your life, or do you trust them in just certain areas? So spend some time thinking about that. Identify who those trusted people are. Then you can also think about who do you know that you think is a good self-advocate. You can talk to them. How did they become a self-advocate? How did they accomplish what they've accomplished? And you might find some tips and some help during speaking with them as well. They certainly can be a good role model for you. Next slide. So there's basic steps in advocacy, and I wanted to go over this a little bit with an example. Now, many people in Oakland County have transportation issues, and so I'm going to use transportation as would everyone please have their mics turned off? I'm getting a lot of background noise at the moment. Please mute your mics if you would. Please mute your mics. Thank you. All right, back onto my steps here. There's 5 steps in advocacy. And the first one is defining the problem. So I said I wanted to talk about transportation. So the problem is that I have this very important appointment and I don't have a car, and I need to figure out how I'm going to get to this appointment. So the next step would be, and I also would recommend that you write down these steps just so you have them available to you. So define the problem is the first step. Then gathering information. All right, I have several options that I might do. I could use a bus, public bus, or I could use a smart bus. I could ask a friend or a family member to drive me. I could ask, when I was receiving services, I could have asked my case manager or a support coordinator if they could take me to this important appointment. And there is a transportation program that Mike Daly started, and right now I'm drawing a total blank on the name of that program.
Freedom Road Transportation.
Yes, thank you so much. Freedom Road Transportation. And you can call Oakland Community Health Network to get a phone number for them. I believe with that, they pay the driver mileage to get where you're going. So this works out well when you know someone that has a car and they're willing to take you. They can be reimbursed for the mileage. So Freedom Road Transportation is a possibility, especially in the northern end of the county, because public transportation is not available, or very little of it is available up there. One of the things gathering information is I checked out Uber. I don't have a car now. I'm working. I'm not sure that I'm going to get a car. I was in a bad car accident last year, and I just have a lot of trepidation about driving. It wasn't my fault, but I sure paid a big price for that accident. So I feel more comfortable just riding in the car rather than driving. So I've been using Uber and have found that to work really well for me. The only thing with Uber is that you have to have a credit card or a debit card in order to book an Uber ride. But that is another option. All right, so action planning is the third step. And now I've decided that I'm going to do Uber. And that meant I had to download the app onto my phone and learn how to use the Uber. It's actually pretty easy. I just plug in their app, plug in the address that I want to go to. Uh, it just takes a moment or two, and they'll tell me who's available to pick me up and how long it's going to be. I've never had to wait any longer than 15 minutes, which I think is pretty good. And I get my ride, I go to where I need to be, and then I call for Uber to bring me back home. One thing about Uber, sometimes if you're traveling at high peak hours, like right at noon time, the price jumps up. But if you wait a little while, even 10 minutes can make a big difference in the price of it. So um, I just have a lot more extra time right now, and I'm willing to wait when I need to until the price comes back down, and then I can get myself back home. But with action planning, then I do the Uber, but you might be confirming your ride with a family member or a friend, or confirming your ride with the smart bus, that kind of thing. Assertive action, that's the fourth step. And that is when you actually go ahead and do the ride, call the Uber, have the ride with the friend or family member. And so you're actually getting your ride and getting your transportation needs taken care of. And then follow up afterwards. It's like, well, what worked, what didn't work? Were there any glitches? The glitch I had is yesterday, as a matter of fact, it cost me $20 to go to a doctor's appointment to get there, and it was $55 to come back. And I said, "Oop, that's too high for me." So I waited about 20 minutes, and it dropped down to 40. If I wasn't by myself, I had my sister with me, so I couldn't wait as long. I would have waited longer, but I went ahead and got the ride home. But that was a $60 ride, far cheaper than if I had a car that I was making a car payment on or paying insurance on. So for me, it's cost effective to be able to do the Uber. Follow up for you might be, well, did things go smoothly with whoever it was that was driving you? Were you using Freedom Road Transportation, or were you using the Smart Bus? And did it go well, or is there something that you need to adjust for next time? So that follow-up step is important to be able to have a more successful journey the next time that you need it. Next slide. All right, so self-advocacy is the ability to articulate one's needs and make informed decisions about the support necessary to meet those needs. Sorry, my slides cut off a little bit there on this side. So let me reread that for you. It's self-advocacy is the ability to articulate, to be able to speak about one's needs and then make informed decisions about the support necessary to meet those needs. Now that you have all the steps to it, you can go and self-advocate and actually put that into action. All right, are there any questions?
Thank you, Sherry, for that great presentation. Any comments or questions for Sherry?
This is Ahmed. I do want to make a brief comment if I can. So going back to Sherry's basic steps to self-advocacy, I'd like to share a quick story if I can.
Please do.
I've struggled with self-stigma in the past, and I'm still working on that today. But I've learned as long as you do it, each time it gets easier. And I think Sherry's steps to self-advocacy really helps you kind of gain that confidence to, you know, overcome that self-stigma and to be able to be a better self-advocate. So thank you, Sherry.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Amit. Any
Thank
other
you.
comments or questions? Well, thank you, Sherry, so much for sharing that information, sharing the efforts that you've done, and all your many years of advocacy experience. Thank you so much. I did want to mention that in the chat we did put a link to the SMART goals, and there also now is a link to the Freedom Road Transportation. All right. So with that, we are going to show an interesting video about taking action.
Whoa, that's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do. That's it.
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
He said he can fix it. All right. All right. That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
Walking down the sidewalk, kicking my feet as I'm moving to the music. Step to the beat. I woke up today, canceled all my plans, and I stepped right outside with my guitar in my hands, and the notes became a louder sound.
So what did that video say to you? What made you think, what could they have done? Anybody want to share? Did they have options? Could they have taken action to help themselves?
Vicki, this is Betty.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think possibly they could have walked. It wasn't as many stairs to take.
Right. Yeah, they could have just walked up the escalator like it was a pair of stairs, right?
Right.
Anybody else have a comment or thought about that?
I think that was a great example. That was a really good video. That was just a great example of sometimes how, like it said, your emotions get in the way and you don't even think you don't see the clear answer.
Right. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, we just get stuck. We don't realize that we can create our own solutions and take action for ourselves. Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Rita. I think they could have gotten off the escalator and kind of look around for somebody instead of yell and scream.
Right. Yeah, good point. They could have done something. So thank you for sharing for that. And next slide. Oh, look at that. We have another raffle. Ooh, somebody's going to win another $25. And our winner is Rochelle Rothwell. Rochelle Rothwell, you are our raffle winner for $25. Congratulations. Woo! Awesome. All right, we do have some video messages from RAC members or other persons who are advocates. So let's take a minute to view those messages from our members.
1996 revision to the Mental Health Code number 712 that requires person-centered planning. will assist in your treatment plan being developed by your helpful activities. The 19
That was Valerie Gomer. She's a certified peer support specialist.
Walking down the streets of New York City many years ago with my college-age daughter, Julie, I was on top of the world. I held my arms tightly around her as we walked in step with each other, enjoying people watching and window shopping. Many years later, I reminded Julie of the walks. Head down, she responded, "Mom, I did not like you having your arms around me when we took those walks." This was a pivotal moment for me. I had missed the opportunity to empower Julie to share her feelings and advocate for herself without fear of hurting my feelings. I assumed I knew what was best for her. Now when I meet somebody, I set my intention to empower them to share their feelings. I open the door and invite their input. I do this by actively listening to their words, placing value in what they're saying, quieting the thoughts popping up related to my own narrative. I ask open-ended questions, hear their answers, and respond with intention to empower them to share their feelings. Their feelings direct my actions.
That's Lois Schulman. She's a member of the RAC committee. We appreciate her message. She also is a former board member of OCHN. And our next video is from Lloyd Austin. Lloyd was one of our Achievement Award winners this year. He's also a member of the Strategic Planning Work Group. So let's hear from Lloyd.
You amazing people. This is a wonderful day. I've never seen it before. I'd like to read a couple of quotes from Maya Angelou. She's a personal favorite of mine. The first one says, "If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be." And the second one I'd like to share with you is, "I've learned that people will forget what you've said, and people will forget what you have done, but people will never forget how you made them feel." So I hope you can keep these words and carry them with you and use them wisely. Remember, you can make a difference from one person to another, and we can incorporate change for the world. All of us in this together. Stay strong, stay safe, wear your masks. God bless. Thank you. You amazing.
And then our next speaker is Amy Kupovich. Amy is a certified peer mentor. She also is a trainer for our organization. She goes out to group homes and trains on the basics of person-centered planning. So welcome, Amy.
Okay, I'm Amy Kupovich, and I had to have a test, so I went to the hospital. Well, I usually use a Hoyer lift to get me in and out of bed and on the table. So I told the nurse I needed one, and she didn't even know what it was for. And I told her to go to the rehab department, and we got it down. And then I had to show them how to get me in and out of the lift and on the table. So I had to advocate for myself, and I believe everybody can advocate for themselves too.
Thank you, Amy. Do we have one more? And Betty Ruas, who we heard earlier, is a member of the Recipient Rights Advisory Committee. So let's hear from Betty.
My name is Betty Ruiz. I am an advocate, an author of 2 books, and a member of Easter Seers. I am a strong believer in the Lord our God, and I try to live by the Lord's teaching. I try to treat everyone as I would like to be treated. As the Bible says in Luke 6:31, do to others as you will have them do to you. This means to treat others just as you want to be treated. I have a very powerful quote I would like to share with you. This quote ties in with what the Bible verse says. The quote is by an unknown writer. I don't have much to say about this quote because it speaks for itself. The quote reads, if you have to choose between being kind and being right, choose being kind and you will always be right. Thank you. That's my inspirational quote. I hope you liked it.
That was great, Betty. It's a great reminder. We all need to be kind to each other. All right. Thank you for our messages. All right. Well, we're getting ready to close out our conference here pretty quick. So if you've fallen asleep, wake up, because I need to know what you learned today or what you liked about today's program. So if you could unmute or type into the chat one thing that you've learned today or one thing that you liked about today's conference. Who's our first taker? Who's going to speak first? Got anybody?
I liked what Sherry said. A skill is anything you can learn.
That's great. Thanks, Molly. Who else? What did you hear that you liked, or what did you learn today?
Hi, this is Drita. You know what? I love SMART because I need to lose some weight, and I think I'm really going to try to do that. That was really great. Thank you.
You're welcome. That was a great presentation by Deb. I had certainly got some great reminders about being kind and that we can all make a difference. Even some little or small efforts, we can make a difference in other people's lives or even in our own lives. I also love that video about the escalator, that we've got to take action and don't get stuck on the escalator, right? That's a great visual. Don't get stuck on that escalator. You got to take action. Someone put in the chat, I appreciate a better understanding of self-determination. Who else? What else did you learn, or what did you like about today's conference?
This is Nancy.
Go ahead, Nancy.
I just like everything about self-advocacy. It's something that, we should start teaching people when they're toddlers and just keep encouraging it. And it's just wonderful to see people evolve into standing up for themselves and understanding themselves. So I love hearing about all of that. So thank you, presenters. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And it makes me go back and think about our first speaker, who was our CEO, and how she shared, how she advocated for what she needed, for what her son needed. And what a great example that was that she shared with us. So that was a great learning opportunity as well. Anybody else? Anybody else got something they want to share? All right. Well, I hope that you've taken some nuggets that you can take back and use to be part of your person-centered plan, set some goals, be an advocate for yourself, get out there and vote. Those are all important things. Don't get stuck on the escalator. And then we have one more raffle before we wrap up today. So our last raffle, our winner is Rebecca DeWall. That's Rebecca DeWall, D-E-W-A-E-L-E. I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, but Rebecca DeWall, you are our $25 gift card raffle winner. All right, last side. Okay, so this wraps up our 2020 Go Rights Conference. I thank you so much for spending time with us today to learn more about your rights, goals, person-centered planning, self-advocacy. If you have any questions, concerns, feel free to contact us at any time. Sherry, did you have something you want to share?
No, but there is somebody that has a hand up.
Yep, that's Dorita. I think that was from her previous comments.
Oh,
Dorita,
okay.
did you have another comment? Or are you good? I know we always forget we have to hit that hand again to put it down. So thanks again for attending our virtual Go Rights conference. Hopefully next year we can join together and be together and share some good food. It's always great to be together and share food, isn't it? But hopefully you're able to share or learn, and I appreciate the efforts of our presenters today and all those of you who worked to put this presentation together, this conference together, and to our communications team who are the back end, always making sure that our conferences go well. Thank you all. You guys have a great fall day and have a great weekend, and we'll see you next year at our Rights Conference.